Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cinema A to B. Alec took us both a little bit to get this thing watched, and kind of for good reason. It is not an easy watch. So the film it's All Quiet on the Western Front, the Netflix exclusive. This thing's brutal.
Yeah.
Why don't you lead us off on this war film from last year?
So initial thoughts, it's brutal, like you said. I feel like it's trying to be kind of like a Terrence Malick war film. Like I got a lot of Thin Red Line vibes from it. Granted, Thin Red Line, different World War, but like that's the feeling I was getting. All it needed was a babbling brook that we sat on for 30, 40 seconds that we didn't get. Outside of that, definitely showed the brutality of war, but wasn't the best. Definitely wasn't the best I've seen of showing the brutality of war. Like it didn't get to like Saving Private Ryan levels of brutality in this. And again, different World War. There was some slight differences. I compared it a lot while I was watching it to 1917 because obviously that's pretty fresh in my mind of seeing a World War I film, and obviously a very different film. Had a little bit more of a focus story on like one or two characters. I mean, this had this, but it was definitely much more of the what do you do in the as the losing opponent in a 4-year war, and kind of what does that look like. So I walked away not impressed. Is not. I mean, it was perfectly fine. Like. Well done. Some shots were absolutely amazing. Some look like I just saw it, was just amazed by just the framing of of it, the actual quality of it. Even though I'm watching it obviously on Netflix compressed, being streamed to my house, it still looked gorgeous for most of it. I just never was super engaged by it. I think I never was, and the parts that were sad were really telegraphed, very much so.
Oh yeah.
So like knew this was coming. So it didn't hit the same way because I was like, oh yeah, XYZ is going to die. Spoiler, there's a lot of people that die in this movie. So like, I'm not like, so.
Oh yeah.
Those
Cat's death telegraphed what, maybe 20 minutes ahead of time.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I'm just kind of like,
yeah. And I was like,
I know this is coming. This is coming.
I mean, and when they spent too much time building up that relationship, like even though like halfway through the movie, I was like, well, at least one of them's going to die, And granted, like this is technically the third revision of this movie, but it's not a remake of the movie technically. What I've read is like it was actually a book called All Quiet on the Western Front that it's based off of. So like,
famous book.
Yeah.
Famous book.
Haven't read it, so
no. No, neither have I. No, but. And it was kind of this is kind of the antithesis of 1917.
Yeah.
As a movie, because 1917, you go through the depravity and horrors of war, but the main character, spoiler alert, the main character is still alive in 1917 at the end. And there's some hope there about like what he's trying to get back to. Spoiler alert as well on this. That didn't happen. So this movie reminded me, I don't know if you've ever seen it, 1993, there was a movie called Stalingrad.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
From the German perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very similar to this. It's just bleak. And all the guy, it opens kind of the same too, where it's a, German company and they're fresh, never seen battle. And they're all, gung ho about fighting the Russians. And then the reality sets in that no one's making it out of this alive. So it reminded me a lot of that. You're right. It is a spectacularly shot film.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why it's on the nomination list for best cinematography.
Yeah. 100%.
And now admittedly, I've not seen everything that's nominated, so I can't really make a great judgment call, but I'd probably put this right near the top as far as stuff I saw from 22.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful image. The color grading is fabulous, shot selection. But yeah, the emotional beats just don't quite hit all the time. It's kind of, and the performances aren't really not that memorable. That Albrecht Schuch, he plays Cat.
Schuch, yeah.
He's the best.
Oh yeah,
he's the best actor in the whole thing. Like, and there's nobody close to him.
I mean, even Daniel Bruhl's character, like Daniel does a great job of playing whatever that Erzberger guy is.
Yeah.
You know, signs the treaty, but he doesn't have enough screen time to really, pull at it. Albert.
No, and I think they put him in it as a kind of a marketing.
Yeah.
Usually you need to get one bigger name in your movie if you can to get audiences to watch it. I think this movie needed another big name.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it had one other big name, either in the lead as Paul or somebody else with a lot of screen time, it would have helped a lot. And that's just reality. Like it may not even made the movie that much better, but I think more people would have seen it.
I slightly disagree. I think, the acting was like, it was definitely mid-grade. I wouldn't say anything. I completely agree with you that Albrecht was definitely the best of it with Cat. Like he was fantastic. Like the one that actually drew my eyes. I think they needed to tighten up the story in a couple different ways. I mean, we had a couple time jumps that, obviously overseeing that, hey, that they've now spent a year in war, going from their, where it is. But I never grasped onto Paul and his friends, like that little group. Like I never was actually like engaged with him. Whereas like with 1917 or Thin Red Line, like I was able to actually start to care for the characters. And I don't know how much of that is what the director did or how much of it was trying to see this from the German perspective, knowing that they're going to fail, knowing, history regards them as the bad guys in this scenario, and those kind of things. I didn't have a really problem with that, so I didn't think that was going to do it. I just was never attached. Again, it wasn't until much later that I got attached to Cat, and just because I just seen this guy kind of, act and work and kind of have some fun scenes. But I feel like, I don't know, it felt very meandering, especially on the Paul Cat, like the war side of things, where it was like there was, and I guess that's war. I mean, obviously I've never experienced it, so I don't know, but like this random, obviously a lot of downtime, but they didn't take that downtime to really build the characters. And they never really got to the true depravity levels of like 1917 that, it was like they kept cutting away from some of the really brutal stuff. So I don't know if they just didn't have either the budget for the CGI or the practical effects to do it. And so a lot of it was implied, which can actually sometimes be worse, but I don't know. It just didn't drag me in of like this is the depraved. Like it felt like a typical war film. It didn't feel like an overly like, the depravity of war film kind of a thing. It's not like an Apocalypse Now or something.
The only scene that really kind of resonated and stuck with me that I thought was pretty haunting was when Paul kills that French soldier down in where there's been shelling.
Yeah.
Kind of in a pit. And then the regret, like that worked, but that was so far into the movie. I mean, I think that was 2 hours in, and this movie's like bordering on 3 hours. I think it's like 2 hours, 48 minutes, something. It's too long. It's just too long. And I found the first half more interesting than the back half, but unfortunately I had like a really splintered viewing experience with this. I've pretty much watched the first 2/3 of the movie. Don't remember what happened. Something came up, an emergency or something, had to stop it. And then remembered where I was and picked it up later and finished it. And so maybe there's some recency bias there. I don't know, but I felt like the first half of the movie was a little more interesting than the back half. And then it's like, it was very predictable, right? Mainly because I am familiar with World War I, not as much as I am World War II, but I'm familiar enough to know that where they were going, that, hey, just because the treaty, the armistice has been signed doesn't mean guys aren't going to still die. And that was, like you said, stuff's just telegraphed from a mile away. That Kaiser or whatever sitting in his palatial estate, saying, oh, we're just gonna, we're gonna really stick it to him one last time before the the treaty is official, like I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it is a good picture of the futility of war, though.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get that. And I feel like had it been done just a slightly bit better, had it been not telegraphed as much, some of those emotional beats would have hit more, or focus some more of the futility of this, like the depravity. Because I mean, you were even talking like in the front half, you had the Daniel Bruhl's character talking about how terrible this is and how we need to end it or whatever. And obviously, now a year later, he's on his way to try to sign this treaty. It felt like you either needed to focus on the futility of war, the depravity of war, or these emotional beats. Like it just kind of felt like I was being pushed too many ways, and they didn't really, not that it lined up, but like it just felt off. Like it never really hit. Nothing actually kind of really landed, which I think what the director was trying to go for. So again, I walked away from it going, not that I wanted my almost 3 hours of my life back, because it was definitely beautiful, but this is definitely a heavily flawed film. And I think Laura was definitely saying it right, where she's like, if I'm going to sit down and watch a long movie that looks like this, I'm going to just watch Thin Red Line again. She goes, because it had too much of that nature stuff interposed with like the depravity of war, which again, very much reminiscent of like a Terrence Malick film to me. And again, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go watch a better movie, which has me engaged with the characters a little bit more. I know, again, different war, so it's hard to compare those because World War II moved a whole lot faster than World War One. But if I want to watch World War One film, I'm going to watch 1917. Which
or Paths of Glory by Kubrick. Which is probably the best. 1917 is great, but I think Paths of Glory is the best World War One film that there is. But I think 1917 is more accessible for regular people, and then obviously it's only a couple years old.
Yeah. Well, and I'll also say 1917 is like we're talking about the cinematography of this movie. 1917 blows it out of the water. And I don't know. I'm going to tell you, man, that night scene in the town with like the red flares.
Yeah,
like,
no, that's fair. That's fair.
That blows.
That's fair. But there's a whole lot more going on there than just the cinematography. I mean, the score, they did a minimalist kind of score for this, for All Quiet on the Western Front, like that weird, like horns and drum. Yeah. It's very unsettling. The whole thing's very unnerving. Like I will say, I will give the filmmakers credit. They did give me a sense of uneasiness and anxiety watching All Quiet on the Western Front that I didn't always have watching 1917, because of that minimalist music with the drums and stuff and it like shrieking. It's really unnerving. And so that was largely successful. But yeah, 1917, I mean, but as far as the color grade and shot selection, for the most part, All Quiet's not like, no, I don't think it's like a mile behind 1917. No. But you're right. There are certain scenes in 1917 that just put it over the top,
So like, for example, like there was a point like near the latter third or whatever. It was the night before the the treaty gets signed or whatever. And Paul and Kat are, maybe not the treaty. A couple days before, anyways. But Paul and Kat are sleeping off in the little French town that they've occupied or whatever, and they kind of go to bed, and then it's now just shots of inside of rooms with flares happening outside of like light peeking through. And I was like, this is a cool shot, but it doesn't add anything to like I don't.
Just the passing of time.
Yeah, and I was like, there was so much of that we could have cut this down, maybe gotten it 2 hours and 15 minutes, or even under 2 hours. Like could have trimmed some of the fat that would have sped the movie along, or at least gotten the story going, where some of those beats might have hit more, because I wouldn't have had as much time to just in between those beats, or had as much time to kind of process them, to kind of make me feel a little bit more emotional. Again, the telegraphing probably would have still, like Kat's death, I never would have been like, oh my goodness, Kat is now dead, because you knew that was happening.
I mean, I was kind of curious how it would happen, and then when the reveal, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, just now, how did you watch this? Did you have were you watching in the German original language with subtitles? Okay.
Yeah.
So same here. So we had the same, and I try to do that. You know, subtitles don't turn me off. No. In fact, if it's something like this, I would rather I get more invested if I can actually just hear the German, even though I can't understand, 99% of it.
You get better acting than a dub version.
Yeah.
And honestly,
and a total aside, the AI technology is nearly here where they're going to be able to not only redub correctly, the mouth movement is going to be corrected for 20 languages. There's already a demo of it where you'll be able to watch these movies and their mouths will move correctly for an English translation, which is pretty cool.
It is, but I'll try it out. I'll definitely try it out. But there's something to be said about being there, in the moment, in front of the camera, dealing with that, instead of being, in a sound booth where, you've got your, tea with honey right outside, crisp, ready for you when you need to take a break and, stop coughing or something, So I'll definitely try it out, when it happens and see what I think. But honestly,
we'll see what audiences think.
I don't mind subtitles. And again, much like you, I'd much prefer to hear the actual actor, saying it as opposed to, and that's for obviously live action. For, animated stuff that's maybe in a different language, then can switch. I generally will watch it in the English version as opposed to the non-English version.
No, absolutely. No, yeah, this, like you said, this is a flawed movie, but for a Netflix production, I'd say it's pretty solid. It's not the best I've seen from Netflix. And I don't know if this is I'm not going to Google it right now. I don't know if this is an actual Netflix production or they just slapped their name on it. I don't know who all the rights holders are. I'm assuming it's a since it's exclusive to Netflix that it was produced much like The King which is probably one of my more favorite films that Netflix has actually produced. That's the one with Timothy Chalamet. Yeah, that really good film. But yeah, I mean, this was if you're a war film aficionado, you've probably already seen this. I don't know where it ranks. It's not bad. It's probably middle of the pack. It's kind of weird to me that it's got as many Oscar noms as it did. Yeah.
Well, and definitely one for Best Picture is throwing me for a little bit too.
Yeah, I can see it's nominated for 9 Oscars. But yeah, I don't understand the original score. No. I mean, best sound design was good. Visual effects. I'm assuming we're seeing a lot of stuff that looks like it was just shot in camera that was a visual effects. So I get that. Best picture? No. Best adapted screenplay? Cinematography? Yes. Yeah. What's that?
Makeup and hairstyling? Sure.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. And production design? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, most of them are justified, and this is, again, these, shocker. These are our opinions. But what? But yeah, I think some of that was a reach. And the reason I say that is because I've seen better war films that didn't pick up near as many nominations as this. Like they didn't.
No. Well, and I'm a little surprised. I mean, it's got a 7.8 on IMDb, which I know, we're not really care that much about ratings, but that's really high in my opinion. Like almost an 8. I mean, you're talking like Raiders of the Lost Ark is like 8.1, Saving Private Ryan is like 8.1. You're telling me this is 0.3 of a point less?
I don't know. Maybe maybe it's really resonated in Europe. Maybe European viewers have seen this and are like, yeah, this is, because make no mistake, Europe is still scarred from both world wars. In the psyche of the continent, for good reason, they are scarred. And so maybe it resonated. I don't know. Maybe people went back and looked up more of their family trees and were like, man, yeah, look at all the people we lost in First World War. Because yeah, WW2 gets all the books, all the movies, And as far as brutality, World War I was a far more brutal conflict. I mean, yeah, you gain no ground, mowed down by machine guns, mustard gas. Do you remember, was there any gas scene in this?
Not really. So you had the scene where they're walking to the front, and there was the bomb that dropped that missed him, and he says gas, 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 and everyone puts their mask on, but there wasn't actually a gas. So I couldn't tell when the tanks roll in. It had a the air had like a mist or fog that had a yellow tinge.
That was it. Then that was mustard gas. Okay,
yeah.
But I don't remember. They went into that room it was just littered with bodies.
Oh yeah,
and they were all dead from chemical warfare. But I don't remember seeing guys like actually dying via mustard gas, which is horrific. I mean, as horrific a death as you can think of. And I hate to tell them like, oh, well, you should have put more stuff that's horrific in here. And there's some bad, I don't know. There's some rough moments, and the flamethrower stuff is really rough. And I don't know how much of it's me conditioned to watching war movies with, a little bit more upper ending, not really joyous. No. And certainly Apocalypse Now is not an upper, and that's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Private Ryan's even sort of middle of the ground, middle road on its tone, on how it ends. And then, Thin Red Line's not a
happy movie.
No. And that movie's tremendous. I remember, I know we disagree on, we need to do the debate of Private Ryan versus Thin Red Line.
Yeah, we do.
Because I used to be team Private Ryan. Now I'm team Thin Red Line.
All right. I mean, I'm Private Ryan now. Bear in mind, I haven't watched them for either of them for a while. So maybe in my old age, I will appreciate Thin Red Line more. And
I don't think I'm actually just stirring up trouble, because I don't think there needs to be a versus debate on those two films. They can coexist nicely.
Because what was it? Two different theaters. So
yeah. And two different theaters of war. And then somebody, I don't remember who, somebody made a really nice comparison that said Private Ryan is a novel and The Thin Red Line is a poem.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And I thought that was beautiful. And I was like, yeah, that describes those two movies to a T. And so you're telling me is the novel better than the poem? No, they're both great. So,
but you know what we're missing? What fantastic war film?
What's that?
Wind Talkers, the fantastic Nick Cage vehicle. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
You want to talk about remakes?
Yes, do that.
You want to talk about a remake? Give me a freaking remake of Wind Talkers, because the whole Navajo code speak thing is super cool, and that movie just ruined it.
Yeah,
I remember seeing the trailers for that, going, "Oh yeah, that's great. That finally that group is getting their due." Mm-hmm. And no, just a ridiculous Nick Cage vehicle. Yeah. No, that would be a great remake.
Yeah. Put a decent director behind it, put some serious actors behind it, get a good, obviously there's a great story already kind of, there with that, the code and stuff. Just don't make it a Nick Cage vehicle.
No, they made their mistake was, oh, we're going to make the lead going to be a Navajo code talker? No. No, let's just put Nick Cage in there. And then, no, that was terrible. No. It's terrible. This is tough because the war film library catalog is really deep now. Mm-hmm. Right? So the deck was stacked against this, I think, in a lot of ways. And then coming off 3 years ago with 1917, mm-hmm. and that's going to be the immediate comparison that it's drawing.
Yeah.
That's my I love to conjecture if this came out in 2019, and maybe say it doesn't win Best Picture, but that it cleaned up at the Oscars, and then 1917 comes out last year, what kind of conversation are we having on what's the better movie? Are we even able to put ourselves in that headspace to say, if All Quiet got the theatrical run, and then 1917 is in Netflix? It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
It is. Again, I feel like 1917 still would have beat it out because the story is tighter than.
Yeah,
like it
is
more concise. This felt, out, and it still kind of made those hits of the brutality of war, the futility of war, of just what World War One was kind of do. And I think it was Sam Mendes, right? Did 1917. I think
Deacons.
Who, by the way, as much as I think this is great, I haven't seen Empire of Light, but Deakins did that, and so I'm like, I'm already rooting for a movie that I have not seen because of Deakins, even though this movie is beautiful, and I'm like, I felt bad. But anyways, that's not the point.
Welcome to Deakins A to B.
Yeah, Deakins A to B, and the amazingness of Deakins. Anyways, but like, I think even. Again, it's hard to put yourself in that headspace, but even switching that out, I still think I would prefer 1917 over this movie because, again, I think the acting was better. I think the storyline was better, and definitely the shot selection and story beats were better. And again, the night scene when he's going through that town, were basically representative, basically going through hell kind of a situation. There's nothing that replicates it in All Quiet. Like there's Sorry.
I was waiting for that moment.
Yeah.
Like I was waiting for something not equivalent, but I was waiting for a similar moment that would really resonate with me. Mm-hmm. And the closest it got was Paul watching the French soldier die in front of him that he just stabbed. Yeah. Like that's as close to, and it was powerful, but it didn't reach the heights of that scene in 1917 where, yeah, you're right. It is his descent into hell. Yep. Yeah, this is a solid movie, but I do question a Best Picture nomination. I really do. Unless is the Academy maybe starting now to say, hey, we're going to kind of take what we felt like was maybe the best of the bunch from the streaming services and give it a Best Picture nomination to open it up? Because that would make sense to me, right? This is Netflix, and kind of acknowledging, hey, these streaming studios are power players now, and we'll take maybe what the best of what they came up with in 22, and we'll give it a Best Picture nomination and a bunch of other nominations. It's the only other explanation I can come up with.
Yeah, I hesitate to want that because I'm perfectly fine them pulling movies from streaming services, but I wanted to also kind of measure up to that Best Picture. Like I want it to be in the same quality. Now, of course, this is a really weird year, in my opinion, for Best Picture noms, of like where you've got movies like Top Gun Maverick and Avatar, which I think you take any other year that we've had the Oscars would never have made the list. I mean, it's
COVID.
Yeah.
It's COVID killing the theaters. We've talked about that. That's what it is. But it is a weird nominee year. I mean, it is. It's half the stuff nobody's seen, the other half everybody has seen. I mean, I think if I went out on the street right now and surveyed 100 people and asked them what should be Best Picture, I'm pretty confident Top Gun Maverick would be their answer for like the average cinema goer. And that's fair. Like it was a lot of fun, but can we get back to, I'm just missing an era of like when Gladiator was named Best Picture and everybody saw it. Like most people saw Gladiator, or most people saw Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, right? Mm-hmm. And if you go back through Best Picture winners, Return of the King's like the last big blockbuster that anybody saw that won Best Picture. Mm-hmm. That was 2003 for the 2004 Oscars. Yeah. It's been a long time. Everything after that's like usually pretty obscure. Or middle of the road obscure, like No Country for Old Men, the year it won. Like I knew, or what?
Argo in like 2012, I think, or whatever.
Yeah. Argo. I knew a lot of people that saw Argo. Yeah. It made good money, but it wasn't. I wouldn't call Argo a blockbuster.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So yeah, they've got their work cut out for them on trying to figure out what the criteria are.
And exactly what deserves it, what doesn't.
Yeah.
Let me take a look.
The
Departed, but yeah, I would neither of them. Again, I would like you're correct, and they're not huge blockbuster films.
No.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings,
Who
Gladiator.
knows if we'll ever get back to that era.
Well, especially like that era in 1998 when, the greatest film ever, Shakespeare in Love, won Best Picture. Man, they got it right that year.
So there'll be a drinking contest later for how many times an episode we bring up 1998 and the sham Oscars. Anytime Ben gets butthurt about Saving Private Ryan, grab a drink.
Grab a drink. Or I bring it up just to anger you.
No, I'm fine. It's what's funny now is it's kind of increased the legend of Saving Private Ryan rather than worked against it.
Yeah.
It may be the best non-best picture winner of all time. It might be. So certainly up there.
Yeah.
You have any closing wrap up on before we wrap up All Quiet?
Not much. I mean, like if you do see it, I would recommend carving the time out to watch it and watch it in one sitting. I think that benefited me more. If I had to carve this up and watch it kind of piecemeal like you did, I think I think I would have the same problem where I wouldn't have gone back to it for weeks and just been like, oh yeah, I need to go finish this. Like there's nothing would have drawn me back to make me watch it, or finish it. The
irony is I think is the people that I would recommend watch it have already seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So for the average cinema goer, movie goer, I'm probably not even gonna worry about it. It's just because it's just downright depressing.
Yeah.
But it does, if you've never seen anything that conveys how futile and how many young men futilely lost their lives in the First World War, then yeah, give it a watch. And it's not hard to watch because it's on Netflix. So,
or go watch Path of Glory by Kubrick.
Yeah.
Really.
And 1917. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
or Thin Red Line.
Well, the list goes on. We can post
what movies to watch instead of this one.
We'll come up with some sort of joint top 10 list of war films we both recommend and post it somewhere on socials, which brings me to follow us on the Facebooks and the Instagrams at Cinema A to B. And then we are now on the TikToks.
What?
At Cinema A to B. Yeah. So I was waiting to surprise Alec on that one.
Oh man. Oh.
He's frustrated with me, I'm sure. But yeah, we are on the TikToks at Cinema A to B.
We are the TikToks and we would A to B.
Yeah, no.
What is your daughter running that then?
Yeah, my daughter is. My 6-year-old daughter, soon to be 6-year-old's running our TikTok page. It's blowing up.
It's blowing up.
Because you only need to be 6 to blow up on TikTok. No, but we appreciate you guys tuning in, listening to another episode of Cinema A to B. If you're watching on YouTube right now, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you liked what you heard.
Yep.
That way you can be notified when we drop another episode, which is every Monday. And it's Mondays at 2:00.
Yep.
That's when we're dropping these. Mondays, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So
and feel free to engage with us on these places, and especially since we're talking this movie, if you do live in Europe or not the US and have experienced war in this kind of way, and this resonated with you a lot more than the two of us, hey, let us know that this was a much better movie for you than maybe what we experienced. Oh yeah, if anybody's listening from Europe and you want to get a hold of us and comment on the YouTube about your own, if you've done research into your family tree on the First World War. Yeah. I would love to read that. I really would. So yeah, again, thanks for catching Cinema A to B. We appreciate you. Thanks everybody.